You're scrolling, not looking for anything, just scrolling. And then you see it. The resort, the infinity pool, the champagne at sunset. Someone you went to school with. Someone you used to sit next to in a classroom that smelled like cheap markers and cafeteria food. And something happens in your chest. Not jealousy exactly. Something quieter than that. Something that whispers you're falling behind. You scroll past, but the feeling stays. You look around your apartment. The same apartment you loved last week. Now it feels smaller, cheaper, like proof of something you'd rather not admit. And here's what makes it worse. Nothing changed. Your life is exactly what it was this morning. But you saw what someone else has. And now you can't unsee it. This happens every day. A colleague gets promoted. A friend buys a house. Someone you barely know posts about their new business, their new car, their new life. And each time, the same question crawls in. Why not me? What am I doing wrong? Why does everyone else seem to be winning while I'm just getting by? You tell yourself it doesn't matter. That comparison is pointless. That you know better. But the feeling doesn't care what you know. It just sits there, quietly eating at everything you've built, making progress feel invisible, making enough feel impossible, making your own life feel like the consolation prize. And so you push harder, work longer hours, chase the next raise, hit the goal, and for a moment you feel it, relief, like you finally caught up. Then someone posts something new, someone buys something bigger, someone achieves something you haven't, and you're right back where you started, feeling behind, feeling inadequate, feeling like no matter what you do, it will never be enough. Here's what no one tells you about that feeling. It's not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not even really about money. It's biology. For most of human history, knowing where you stood in the social hierarchy wasn't vanity. It was survival. Being at the bottom of the tribe meant exclusion. Exclusion meant danger. So your brain learned to track where you stand, to scan constantly, to ask, am I enough? Am I safe? Am I falling behind? That system kept your ancestors alive. But you are not living in a tribe of 50 people competing for limited resources. You're living in a world of billions. And your brain cannot tell the difference. So it treats a stranger's vacation photo the same way it would treat a real threat. It fires the alarm. You're behind. You're not safe. Catch up. And you feel it as urgency, as shame, as the quiet, relentless sense that your life is not enough. Not because it isn't, but because your nervous system is still solving a problem that no longer exists. But there's something underneath the biology. Something that the science alone doesn't explain. Because not everyone reacts to comparison the same way. Some people see someone else's success and feel inspired. Others see the same thing and feel destroyed. The difference isn't willpower. It isn't maturity. It's a wound. One that most people have been carrying so long they've forgotten it's there. Somewhere early in a classroom, in a home, in a moment. Most people can't even pinpoint you learned something dangerous. That being less than meant being unlovable. That worth was something you earned. That you had to prove you mattered. And money became the easiest way to measure that proof. So now, when you see someone with more, you don't just feel behind financially. You feel behind as a person. Their car becomes evidence. Their house becomes a verdict. Their life becomes proof that they figured something out that you haven't. And your brain translates it into the oldest fear you carry, that you are not enough. Not just financially. As a human being, psychologists call what happens next the hedonic treadmill. You adapt to every achievement. You get the raise, but someone else got a bigger one. You buy the car, but someone else bought a better one. You hit the goal, but someone else is already 3 steps ahead. And instead of celebrating, you're calculating how much further you have to go, how much you're still lacking. The joy fades before it even fully arrives. And you're back on the treadmill, running, always running, toward a version of enough that keeps moving the moment you get close. And here's the cruelest part. Most of what you're running toward isn't even real. What you see on that screen is not someone's life. It's a performance of their life. You don't see the debt behind the luxury car, the anxiety behind the promotion, the loneliness behind the perfect relationship. You see the version they chose to show, and you're comparing your entire unfiltered reality, your doubts, your mess, your ordinary Tuesday against their highlight reel. That's not comparison. That's a rigged game, and you've been losing sleep over a game that was never fair to begin with. The people you're comparing yourself to are doing the same thing. Right now, looking at someone else's life, feeling behind, feeling like they're running out of time, wondering why everyone else seems to have figured it out. There is no finish line. There is no point at which the comparison stops and the satisfaction begins. Not at a higher salary, not at a bigger house, not at any number in any account. Because enough isn't a number, it's a feeling, and you can't feel it while you're constantly looking sideways. So here's what actually changes things. Not a strategy, not habit, a question. One honest question you've probably never let yourself sit with. What do I actually want? Not what looks impressive, not what your parents expected, not what the algorithm tells you success looks like. What would you be building if no one was watching? What would feel like a good life when you're alone with it? Not when it's photographed, not when it's praised, not when it gets 30 comments that say you're doing amazing. Just you and your choices and the quiet truth of whether they're yours. Because here's what happens when you stop comparing. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly, in the background, like a fog lifting, you start noticing what you have. Not in a forced gratitude way. Genuinely, the roof over your head, the people who show up for you, the progress you've been quietly making while obsessing over someone else's wins. You start to realize your life isn't behind. It's just different, and different isn't worse. It's just yours. A year ago, you didn't have what you have now. 5 years ago, you would have been grateful for the life you're living today. But you're not grateful because you're not measuring your progress. You're measuring your distance from someone else, and that distance never closes because there will always be someone further ahead. Always someone with more. Always someone whose life from the outside, through a screen, in a carefully chosen photo, looks like the life you were supposed to have. But you were never supposed to have their life. You were supposed to build yours. And you've been doing that. Quietly, imperfectly, in ways that don't photograph well, and don't get many likes, and don't make anyone stop scrolling. But real, genuinely, completely real. Your worth is not relative. It was never determined by where you ranked. It was there before you made $1, before you owned anything, before anyone could compare you to someone else and decide where you placed. It is inherent. It does not go up when your salary does. It does not go down when someone buys a bigger house. It is not stored in your bank account. It cannot be photographed. It cannot be liked. And it has been there solid, unchanged, unranked, through every moment you spent convinced you were falling behind. So here's the choice. A life that looks good or a life that feels good. A life built for strangers who will scroll past it in 3 seconds. Or a life built for you, the one who has to live inside it every single day. One requires performance. The other requires presence. And only one of them leads to peace. You already know which one. You've known for a while. The only question is whether you're ready to choose it. If this reached something in you, don't scroll past. Sit with it, just for a moment, because that moment of stillness, that's already the beginning of something different.